New hot and iced Sunrise Batch Coffee from Dunkin'. A bright and balanced, full-bodied blend brewed so you can get summering from sunrise to sunset. And even after that, because that's when you can show off those string lights you hung in the backyard. Or rehung. Enjoy a medium, hot or iced Sunrise Batch Coffee for $2. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Get ready to cheer on Team USA. Sign up for Xfinity Internet and get a Flex 4K streaming box free and Peacock Premium included. Can your internet do that?
Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Peacock subscription required.
Xfinity, proud partner of Team USA.
Please check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give $1 or $2. Remember, all prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams Talk Radio thank you for your support. The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice.
Stay safe, stay indoors, and listen to us.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, good evening or morning, depending on your time zone. Boy, the time is going by so fast. It is April the 9th, Friday. What can I say? I hope everybody's having a great week. I hope everybody's going to have a great weekend. I hope you have good plans. Well, I want to again thank our guest last night, Don Smith. We talked about, well, Roswell quite heavily last night. We talked about ETs. Maybe they're not quite as friendly as some people really think they might be. I don't know. The Navy, the Navy is now taking 9 destroyers and mounting heavy lasers on them. And these lasers are capable of shooting down rockets, missiles, and other aircraft. So, I mean, technology has really moved so fast in laser. I remember when I was a kid, my dad worked at Boeing Aircraft as one of the lead engineers, electronic engineers, designing stuff for the SST, which never happened. But he was into laser. And I remember his workshop at home. He would take on his workbench about 5 feet away, he would take a piece of paper, and he had this laser focused on it. And within a matter of minutes, it would burn a hole right through that piece of paper. We've come a long ways from the 60s with lasers to being able to shoot down missiles and stuff like that. Maybe they should think about, developing a laser system to maybe knock out an asteroid or nudge it and stuff like that. And speaking about another asteroid, a large one is set to go by Earth again. They seem to find these things like in a moment's notice. This one here is about the size of a football field. And it's planning to, well, it's not planning, it's going to zoom by here over the weekend. You realize if that would hit Earth, what would happen? Interesting. They just keep finding this stuff out without much warning. We need to spend money developing a plan to deflect these asteroids, because this is a matter of one of these days. We're not going to wake up because guess what? We're going to be slammed. Well, the Earth has another major problem, and this has been going on since 1957. There's more than 3,000 satellites still circulating Earth from 1957. Think about that. Now, a lot of them have burned up and came back into our Earth's atmosphere, but NASA says there's approximately 3,000 right now and growing. I wouldn't want to be on that space station for all the tea and, well, I'm not going to say it. I just wouldn't want to be on it because, one of these days it's going to get hit with, with something, a debris of one of these, satellites. Could you think about that Russian Sputnik, with the dog on it, still going around the Earth? I have no idea. It's interesting. And you know what? As the sea level keeps rising on the East Coast, it's actually getting into the groundwater and seeping into the groundwater in the forests, and it's starting to kill off the forests because of the salt content. And the trees, like the cedar and all the pine and all that stuff, are dying off. They don't know how to save it. There's no way because of salt content. And it's being replaced by seagrass. What do you think about that, James?
I'll tell you that it could have a lot of repercussions on our ecosystem without any doubts.
Well, again with the sea rise, but again, I was reading another article this week. As we've been going through global warming, now the global warming is slowing down. That is some people saying, oh, wow, see, I told you it was no big deal. Well, it's already done its damage, okay? You got the water coming from the equator slowing down. We're very close. Not just having an Earth magnetic flip, but we could go into an ice age like that without any warning. Like that movie.
Oh, yes, The Day After Tomorrow with Whitley and Art. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, the ocean currents, if those things slow down to where they're hardly even moving, we are in big trouble because they are responsible for, temperature all across the world.
Oh, I know. It's scary, isn't it? I mean, every day it seems like there's something going on. Now in the news tonight, China is really flexing its muscles towards Taiwan. And there's been about 13 encroaches on the Taiwan, airspace with, the Chinese aircraft, coming by, flying right over Taiwan. And that's really getting, the military, the leaders of Taiwan scared. And China is basically now starting to say, well, you know what? It's this matter of a very short period of time. We're going to reclaim Taiwan. And as you know that the military is planning drills right now with Taiwan, and they're really scared to do it right now because they don't want China to get the wrong idea. But I'm kind of worried. We had China here 2 weeks ago, meet with the leaders of the president of China with Putin and, kind of put an alliance together, a military alliance. I don't know what's going on. I mean, here we get hit with the virus, everything else, and it seems like, it's one thing after another. But I don't know. If China decides to take Taiwan back, are we going to let them do it? Or are we going to do with what our security agreement is with Taiwan to defend them? Now, the only two countries I know of that would be willing to defend them would be Japan and the United States. And could that bring us into some type of, war or something?
Listen, I can definitely see that happening. Unfortunately, Taiwan, they've been trying to get them for a long time, and I don't think if they really wanted to, there's not much anybody could do. Yeah, we could help them, but boy, that's a lot of people's going to die, unfortunately.
Well, how can we? I mean, look how many ships we have, okay, in the Pacific Ocean, in that area, compared to the number of the Chinese ships. Right now, China has more military ships than we do. Big time.
Yeah, right. And, this has been kind of a cat and mouse game going on with us and China over there, I think, for last year or two since those embargoes that you were speaking of.
Oh, yeah. And then what's going on, in the Ukraine area, with Russia building up troops to invade it. And they're telling NATO and, us, don't get involved. Don't get involved. Or, the word or means. They're saying if we get involved, it could escalate. So, I mean, we got that going on one front. Now we got this going in the Pacific. Even the Philippines, the president of the Philippines is freaking out right now because of all the Chinese ships on a island that, the Philippines claim is their territory. No, China says it's our territory. So they put a couple hundred ships there.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it sounds like China's becoming the new Reich, so to speak. They're kind of reclaiming land and just kind of want to spread their muscle, which could be scary.
Well, what also is interesting, our own Pentagon said if we ended up in war, either in Europe or in the Pacific, we couldn't actually defend ourselves more than a few days. That is scary.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that is scary. That's about as scary as these UAPs coming across that we can't defend against them either.
Yeah, we talked about that last night with our guests. Again, too, we were talking with Don last night, and, from this general I've been talking to, he said from the 50s to current date that these craft come into our atmosphere, come over our territory, we disperse fighters. And all of a sudden, occasionally when you read the news, a jet just crashed, a fighter just crashed in a training scenario. And then they don't find the wreckage of it or not much of it. And it seems like this has been going on since the 50s. And it's always like, I wonder if we're dispersing craft because, invasion of our airspace, they take it as a hostile threat with us. They don't think like we do. They don't go to the same dime store we used to go to.
No, that is for sure. And there's all kinds of stories from World War II with the Foo Fighters right up in there. There was some stories in Korea and even Vietnam. There was one account where a UFO or a PT cruiser fired on a UFO, and the UFO pretty much destroyed it.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's the gloom for the weekend. Hey, what can I say? Could you imagine you're sitting in your front room watching TV, and a meteorite comes in goes right in front of you, right for your roof, right for your floor, just like whoop, there it went.
Well, yeah, those things travel anywhere from 10 to 10,000 miles an hour up to 100. Who knows how fast they go? But I get, some people say, "Oh, that's lucky." Well, how's that lucky? You got to replace your roof, your floor, and thank God it didn't kill you or your pet.
Well, yeah, because imagine you're sitting there, right, watching TV, and 3 feet in front of you, a meteorite comes crashing through and goes for your, floor in your front room. I mean, it could have been 3 feet closer, and then you would have, not been watching TV anymore.
Absolutely. There was a count where that actually happened in front of a woman's house, and it totaled her car, hit her car.
Oh, yeah. Well, tonight we got Jeffrey Cox on. He's a 30-year Air Force veteran, including 27 years as a security safety director for the DoD. And prior, he was also a CEO, owner of DRI Solutions International, a safety consulting firm. He's also been involved with MUFON in Utah as assistant director. And let's welcome on the show right now. Hey, Jeffrey, how are you doing? And welcome on the show.
Well, thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Well, how is everything going? And what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Roy, Utah, right outside of Ogden, Utah, about 26 miles north of Salt Lake City.
Now, do you get many reports of UFOs out there?
Oh, yes. Yeah. If we had an active MUFON organization out here, there'd be a lot more. But it's somewhat dissolved for a number of years. And so it's nothing like it was when we were handling it. We were probably getting, I'd say, anywhere from 6 to 10, depending on the time of the year and so forth. And it was basically getting the word out that we were active, and we would respond immediately and so forth. Of course, it was hard to get recruits and so forth to actually do the work and have the time to do it.
Interesting. What, Jeffrey, what got you interested? You were in the Air Force for 30 years. What got you interested in these objects?
Well, that's kind of funny, Gary. I was about 9 or 10 years old and lived up in Pocatello, Idaho, and I can remember, I could still see myself picking this book out of the garbage can, and things were a little more loose back then, and I picked it out and had a UFO on the front of it, and I said, "Oh, this is free. Might as well read it." So I started reading it, and I read through the whole book. It was probably one of the first books at 9, 10 years old of that size that I actually read all the way through. But what I found out was that it just didn't have the information that I expected. The facts, the data, the stats, the investigation. It was just a story, very limited. So as time went on, I read maybe 1 or 2 more books after that. And this was all up in Idaho until I was about 12 years old. And then life changes, life moves on. Go in the military with a lottery number of 1 during Vietnam. It was picked by my grandfather. Anyway, it's a long story there, but so I spent 30 years there and 27 years as chief of safety in DOD, and time went on, I got a couple pensions and had time on my hands when I retired. And then I did have my business for 10 years. So about 64 years old, I said enough is enough, and I just turned in everything and started dedicating my time to move on and later on toward my own research. And that's pretty much, what really turned it, I guess you could say, was when my director said, once you learn how to find one of those funny guys up in the sky, you'll always find them. And sure enough, after spotting 3 of them in 5 months, and then it was another 1.5 years or 2 years down in Laughlin, Nevada, with Mike McNabb and Rob Freeman. When I was down there with them, and they're international observers for UAPs, and so I had 4 within a matter of a couple of years, and then I was known as a star child. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, what was your first experience when you saw one? What did it look like, and what went into your brain when you saw it?
Well, I was out on my back deck. Now we're out in Roy, Utah. We're kind of up on a hill, so I've got Ogden Airport about 2,000 feet away from me, and I've got Hill Air Force Base 1.5 miles from the north runway, and then I have Salt Lake International 20 miles straight south as crow flies. So I went out on my back deck, and I'm pretty used. I mean, I was in air transportation too for 30 years in the military, so I know what lights are in the sky. I've flown a C-5. I've been a backseater to an F-16. I've flown a Piper. I've been in helicopters. So I pretty much know what the flight routine around here. So I went out on the back deck. I took my little laser and I'm flashing. I've done this a few nights. And the next thing, see a couple of stars up there. I flash one. I go over. I flash the other one twice. First one twice. Second one twice. I turned back, and it wasn't that fast. I turned back, and I said, for whatever reason, I looked back up there, and that first one started moving just like a satellite. And it was amber color. It was just like an orb, and just moving like a satellite north-northwest. And I shook my head, and I said, you got to be kidding me. So I flashed it a couple more times, and I didn't get any response like a light or anything. But it was just odd that that first one hadn't even passed the second one when I looked back. And I thought, no, that's odd. So that was my first case.
Well, you're brave. You know, Jeffrey, when I was a kid, me and a bunch of kids got together. We went to a place called Camano Island, a campground. And it was right on the ocean. And we got our we were, I guess we were bad kids. We were about 13 years old, and we had nothing to do. So late at night, we kind of went to the bank to watch the ships go back and forth and the boats. And there was a buoy light. It kept flashing. So one of my friends said, hey, I got a high-powered flashlight. So he started going in sync with that buoy light and almost ran a tugboat on ground. But here's the point. What I'm trying to say is if you're taking a high-powered light and you're flashing, you know what Carl Sagan and all these other people said. You don't want to advertise you're there. I mean, you don't know what response you could get. They might flash a light back at you, or they might abduct you or something.
Well, I got a better story than that then.
Well, then let's hear it.
Okay, well, I call the first one I called the Watcher. This one I called the UAP that wouldn't stop giving, cloaking with the lights. And in this situation, out to the east of us, our condo, we have the Wasatch Front, right along Ogden City. And I woke up at 5:08 in the morning. I looked outside the sliding glass doors, and I see Arcturus above the mountain crest, and I see this other light climbing up, and I'm going, that's not supposed to be there. That's not a flight pattern. And I thought, well, maybe it's search and rescue. And this all of a sudden it just blinks this big, it was like a strobe light that would emit 100 miles. I mean, it was just fantastically clear white. And it's rising up like a helicopter. Well, on the other side is Snow Basin Ski Resort. And on the left-hand side that I look at is a nice rock bowl. And if you walk in there, it's quite interesting. But anyway, so it comes out of this bowl behind the crest, but there are also some communication towers up there also. So that's rather interesting as we go along tonight. It flashes white, it goes up, it flashes white again, and then all of a sudden it flashes this brilliant red. I mean, just as pure colored red as you would ever see. And I'm going, what the heck is that? So it starts moving north. Well, I just got done with this Nephi investigation on a pilot, which is down in central Utah. This pilot that spotted an orange square down in Nephi at 38,000 feet. I came home late that night, and all my gear was downstairs. So I run downstairs, turn off my alarm. I figured I'm counting. This is what Richard Haynes has taught me. You kind of count yourself as you're moving along. If you're doing something, I grab my binoculars and my laser. There's more to the story than that. I run upstairs, open up the door. Well, this thing is heading north, away to my left. When I ran downstairs, when I open up the sliding door, it's coming right at me. And we're talking about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles away, and it's flashing this brilliant white light. I mean, just as brilliant as can be. Then it flashes the red, and I'm thinking, how can it do that? All of a sudden, it's about, I'd say about 2,000 feet away, and it does an embankment, and both lights go off. Now imagine your hands. You got your left hand lower and your right hand up higher. The lower one is red. The upper one is white. They both went off the same time as this bugger was embanking, almost like a pipe. And those lights were circular, and the diameter had to be at least my height, which is 6'2". And they both went off. Well, the red one diffused, and I couldn't see anything. But the white one, as it was diffusing, you could see almost, if you ever looked into a diamond ring and took a jeweler's eyeglass and looked into a diamond ring, that's exactly what it looked like. It looked like all the cuts and finishes and so forth to emancipate the color in a diamond. That's what it looked like. So it does this embankment just like a piper. I mean, it's just flying just like a piper. But when it does the embankment, guess what? It's cloaked. All there is the two lights there. And it's moving along, heading over the main flight line of Ogden Airport. And I'm wondering, what is that doing at 5:10 in the morning? The airport doesn't open till 7. Well, as it starts going along and finishes its embankment, I was going to hit it with my laser. I decided, no, I could be wrong. I don't want to hit him in the eyes or anything. So after it did its embankment, I hit it with the laser. I got no reaction at all. It heads across the flight line doing like a flyover. And I'm looking, this is in March of 2016. Had it not been for the leaves all gone, I would have never seen the end of this. As that cloaked UAP continues down, the lights flash a couple more times, but I look further down, and here's this dark, misty cloud sitting at the end of the runway. And the only reason I know that is because when this UAP approached that cloud, the white light went off and started diffusing as it went into the cloud, and it gave me, like I said, this oily, misty, dirty cloud that wasn't moving much at all. It went into the cloud. Within 2 or 3 seconds, it was gone. The cloud was gone, and I could see all the way to North Ogden, the city lights. And I'm sitting there. No, I'm standing there on the deck, and I wanted to scream, and I'm saying to myself as I kicked myself, slapped myself, and pinched myself at the same time, what the heck just happened?
It's interesting. I just wonder how many cloak UFOs there are actually out there. Again, have you ever looked at any of these objects like with infrared devices like binoculars or anything like that?
I did down with Rob Freeman and Mike McNabb down in Laughlin. And Rob Freeman, he's got a $100,000 setup, tripod with all the cameras, all the goodies, quite well to do on the electric company, was able to just travel around the world and find all these odd things in the sky and on the ground and so forth. But anyway, he had one of those very expensive night visions, just a teeny little thing. It was a binocular, and you look through that, and I'm telling you, it was.
Introducing Peacock, the new free streaming service from NBC Universal. It's hit movies, current shows, live sports, trending bits, and timeless hits. And that's why you can't not watch. Peacock. Watch for free, upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com. Law & Order SVU streaming now. Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
Just like daylight in the night. And we spotted a number of items way out there, but it was too hard to really tell what it was. I mean, this was at 12:08 also in the desert at night, and but it was fabulous. But that monocular night vision he had was $10,000.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was the best of the best.
You're so right, because, I took a break from broadcasting, and I managed a chain of professional camera stores. We used to import Czechoslovakian and Russian infrared binoculars, military ones, and they were even surplus. I mean, they were going for $3,000 to $5,000. That was in the early 2000s. And I tell you what, when you got tired of looking at animals running around your yard and you looked at the sky, it scared you. Hey, we need to take a break. Jeffrey, we'll be back in about 2 minutes. We'll continue talking about UFOs. Again, check our website out at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. If you're into the paranormal, if you're into UFOs, you're into cryptics or all that stuff, check out all the great books we have on our website. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
Tom Davis with Metatron Power and Light. Our songs are inspired by our own experiences and the stories of people we've met. We know what we've seen, and we know the truth. We are not alone.
She asked me for
What's unusual about Metatron Power and Light as a band is we share the same beliefs. We've all had similar experiences, and together through music we can explore the kinds of subjects that haven't been presented in exactly this way before.
We want everyone to know that what you're going through, we're going through. When you're being told one thing and seeing another, we're here with you. Music brings people together, and together we're strong.
Please check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give a buck or two. Remember, all prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams Talk Radio thank you for your support.
From the compound in beautiful Gig Harbor, Washington, Night Dreams Talk Radio presents your host, Gary Anderson.
And we are back with Jeffrey Cox. Now, a question I have from you, or for you, from one of the listeners here. For some reason, our chat went down, so I'm getting messages now on my cell phone. In Utah, there's an area that they call the new Area 51. Have you ever saw any strange lights in that area?
The only strange light I've seen, Gary, out there is when they're doing the laser testing. But when I did do a filming out there, I was actually, I guess you could call it the star of the Unexplained, and Dugway. The movie never went anywhere, but the photo group went out there and actually were showing around outside of Dugway. And as soon as they started putting their camera equipment away, all of a sudden this bolt of light shot up, and then all of a sudden it shot back down. And they went to grab their cameras, and it was just too late. But it was, I mean, I've never heard of that, where I've seen it from a distance where the light has shot up and they're laser testing, but I've never even heard of it shooting back down to the ground.
I've never heard of that,
so,
too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that is actually going on there within that area. And but I mean, we've got, you've got Kennecott Copper Mine, you've got Great Salt Lake, you've got Wendover. I mean, you've got all these military installations around here. You've got a lot going on. You have Skinwalker Ranch up in Vernal that I've got a nice story about that.
Well, go ahead. And let's hear about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I call this this is an investigation I did when I was in MUFA. And it was probably about my third or fourth investigation. On February 10th, 2013, I didn't come on until 2015. So this happened a couple years before, and I'm reading off his witness statement. At about 1:30 a.m., my son and I were were in my driveway installing a stereo in my Durango when we heard in the field across our street a very late pack of coyotes had started to feed the kits. Now, this is only a few miles down from Skinwalker Ranch itself. Then we heard several like howls from something unknown, and they began to hoot at each other. And then all hell broke out. It seemed that whatever was howling attacked the coyotes and was tearing them apart. It was very loud and terrifying to listen to. After it ended, my neighbor came out and asked us what the hell it was. We said we had no idea what just attacked the coyotes. We went into the woods to see, but had a terrible fear and went back into our home. The next evening was heavy raining. I had several friends over that evening and told them of what we heard. So we all went outside to show them about where it happened. As we got to the field, in the field was red glowing eyes staring right at us. I hit them with my laser pointer, and then from behind the first 4, then 6 more stepped out from behind them. Then they were jumping and frolicking about each other, but at the whole time, the first one stayed staring at us straight on, when I noticed that 2 on each side started flanking us to the side of the field. I said they were hunting us, and they were trying to gain our flanks, and we ran back into our home. We waited several hours, but all through the night, they were there staring at my house. The next day, they were gone. We could not find footprints, which was crazy as it rained all night. When we had several strange events with floating strong orbs in the sky above my home after that. One night, my son and friend and myself witnessed one of the flashing lighted crafts land in the mountain range just above my house. I've been able to shake the fear and uneasy feelings about these events. My dogs have several times run into my home scared and yet ready to attack whatever had spooked them. One night, a terrible swooshing jet-like explosion blew through my yard, and a tree in my backyard that had fallen laying down in the south direction. Later on, it was picked up, though, and turned 180 degrees and sat back down with no markings on the tree or ground from it being moved. I live in fear and unease. I can't even leave my house most of the time. Some days, from fear, I don't know what is surrounding my home and life, but it is getting worse. I need your help. And that's where it was.
Interesting.
So we did a follow-up, and here it is 3 years later, excuse me. And so there wasn't much I could do except take the report and mark it down as an unknown.
Yeah, out of curiosity, what happened to MUFON in that state?
What happened to MUFON?
Yeah, you mentioned that did they break up in that state, or do they have an organization in that state yet?
No. I was with MUFON at that time. That is my MUFON report.
Okay, no, but I'm saying now with MUFON, are they still active in your state or not active anymore?
They are not as far as I know. I looked at the MUFON listing, and you'll only see 1 to 3 reports a month that come out of here when we were doing 8, 10, 12. So, it's down to nothing. So when you don't have a source here, it's pretty hard to, even validate any of these stories. So they'll actually go through the CMS and actually do the report there themselves. And but there's no one I know of that there was for a while, but no one I know of off our team that's involved with MUFON.
Interesting. I thought MUFON was growing and all that stuff more and more, but I've been hearing things that MUFON is actually shrinking. I could be totally wrong. What do you think is going on with these UFOs? Why are they showing themselves? Why are people seeing them? What do you think, in your gut feeling, with all the investigations you've done, research you've done, what do you think is going on?
Well, I think it's always been around. I think you just need an active force out there, and you need a dedicated group of people in each state under a different organization than MUFON. And I hate to say that because, first of all, I give all the credit to the MUFON workers out there. They've just gone through a hell of a lot. And and reestablishing themselves and making some changes and so forth. And I understand it's not actually moving along too well. Now, a lot of these organizations do quite well. Now, the one in Florida was doing quite well. The one in Pennsylvania was doing quite well. There's a number of them that have done very well. But that's because they've got a workforce that they can count on. Here, we're more spread out. We're not like California. We're not like New York or Pennsylvania. We're a little more isolated here. We've got 3 major cities within about 70 miles here. And then you got the little hubbubs, I'd say closer to about 90 miles from Logan down to Provo. And so you're really regulated on, say, for instance, this deal with the red ice. That would have been a 220-mile trip for me. And I tried to handle most of this over the phone. I wanted to go up there, but it just wasn't worth my expense. Now, as far as what's going on, I think when you have an active force and they know you're active out here as far as where they can report it, you're doing the advertising, you're going to get a lot more reports. I don't think anything's changed. And I don't think it's changed because, of course, the density of the population is a big factor. Okay? I mean, I think we've got here just over 3 million people in Utah. But you're all congregated, again, between Logan and Provo in about 120 miles radius. So yeah, at most of these sightings, I did a graph on this stuff myself, and I call it the coffer, okay, where you go all the way from Wendover, Nevada, which is part of Utah too, and you go all the way down to north of Nephi on over, and it's basically a cube. And you hit Hill Air Force Base, and you go straight up to Vernal, head north, and straight over. I mean, you've encompassed 83% or 81% of all the investigations that are done in Utah.
Interesting. Now, how about like cattle mutilation and stuff like that? What's it like in your state?
Well, I thought I had heard one here, but I couldn't follow up on it because there wasn't enough information. And I tried to go back to the anomalous cattle mutilations. I tried to get the word out through Scott Brown's anomalous cattle mutilation, and tried to hit up David Perkins and Chris O'Brien and so forth. And there just wasn't any information out there on Utah. But as far as cattle mutilations, these people won't talk. And I got out after I left MUFON and hit the stockyards down there when they do the show, county fairs, Salt Lake County Fair. Passed my card around and so forth, tried to hit them up and just said, hey, this is discreet. It's between you and me. If you want to let me release the information, I'll release it, but not without your consent. Never got one call. So I don't know if we don't have a real problem here with cattle mutilations. I know Colorado had one. I know Oregon just recently had a bunch of them. But I read Tracking, what was it, Tracking the Herd? Anyway, with Chris O'Brien's book, excellent book. But I just don't believe there's a lot going on here without saying that it could be done by coyotes or something like that. And again, these folks are loners out here, just especially like you go up toward Vernal or down south. That's why they live out in the country. They don't want anybody even on their property. So they're gonna hold back and take their loss and never claim it on insurance because it'd be the laughing stock of the county. And they're very private people, but certainly do take a hit when they lose one of their bulls, especially.
Very expensive when that happens too. How about abductions in that area? I mean, it seems like abductions has gone up everywhere. I get so many emails, Jeffrey, every day from people saying, hey, I've been abducted, or I've had an implant, or, you know, I saw a ET, close up. I mean, is there any reports of any of that stuff going on in your area?
You know, I didn't hear of anything when we were working with the MUFON here for Utah. Nothing even close to that. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, it's kind of like you got more information out of a book or in the MUFON master listing of all the reports, or NUFORC than you would around here. It just hasn't been prominent enough to even think about, unfortunately. I mean, I even had in my investigation kit, I was prepared for the end of the world. I mean, I had a starter surgical kit, so if I ever came across like cattle mutilation or anything like that, at least I could take some samples. I had the plaster dental powder, mix it up in a water bottle, pour it into whatever you would take a form on, and but never had to use it in the whole time in the 2.5, 3 years that I was working MUFON.
Very, very interesting. How about the military presence going around there? I mean, has there been any investigations of UFOs in your state, much of or anything, or talk about it or anything?
Well, the reports I see that do come across with MUFON and NUFORC, you see these folks report quite a few sightings around the base, and it's funny, the one that I had, or the three that I had, none of them even showed up on the it's actually a map that shows where sightings have been. I thought that's kind of odd, and yet they say they take the reports from MUFON. So a lot of things outdated. But as far as being around here, I tried to get with them when I was with MUFON. Being the chief of safety that I was out of Dugway and out of Hill Air Force Base, once you leave your position, they won't even play with you. And security is really picked up all around the bases anymore. I mean, even I could walk right on the flight line, even being retired. Not the flight line itself, but I could walk into base ops. Now you gotta use the phone, go through a gate, they let you in, and you're escorted, and so on and so forth. So things have changed dramatically since I retired in 2008. And even if the people do know me, there's nothing they can do or will release to me.
Interesting. Now, my producer has a couple questions for you, if you don't mind, Jeffrey. We are ending the show tonight at 8 o'clock. I forgot to tell you that. But James, go ahead and ask you a couple questions here.
Yeah. Did you have a reporter over here, a ham operator, that in real time reported a UFO sighting?
Yeah, we had Pat Daniels. He was in our group with MUFON, and he was a friend of the director of MUFON, and Pat Daniels anyway, and he was a radio show host, and he was actually listening to a scanner and heard over the intercom or over the speaker, and it came across where this aircraft was flying 38,000 feet from San Francisco to Philadelphia, went over Nephi, and they were following this orange square about a mile in diameter, and They said they'd been following it for some time off the nose of their aircraft. And this is the transcript of what actually can be heard on the audio. And this is starts with American 434 Tower, American 434. Tower 434, go ahead. American 434, you wouldn't have to know what this bright orange square we are flying over is, would you? Tower, no. That's a good question. I am not sure. Is it off to your right side? American 434. It is like directly off our nose right now. It is right below us. We have been watching it for a while now. I don't know what it is. It is a perfect square, and it is bright orange. What town are we next to? This town, right off our 2 o'clock. Indistinguishable words were said. This is Tower. American 434. That's Nephi. Nephi, Utah. American 434. Nephi. Okay, cool. I'll see what I can find out. Thank you. Tower. You bet. So what happened was we did an investigation, and I was put on as one of the investigators to go out and try to find that information. We didn't know how to get that tape. I found it, and it took hours of searching, but I found it. And so I recorded it. I kept it. It was on Flight 24 radar, and I kept that. I think it was also on his flight was on Flight Radar 24, and then it was the air traffic control app that I got the voice off of. So we did a big investigation and had a few people involved in that, and it's amazing. If you ever go and look into that, all you got to look up is ham radio operator hears American Airlines pilot report UFO. You'll find so many charts that were done by this gentleman that was a weather expert, and he tracked how many times this object had moved around, and it wasn't echoes. This object was moving around about 30,000 feet up in the air. Like every 1 or 2 seconds, it'd go a mile, it'd go half a mile, it'd come back. So I went out, I took photos of the whole place, of the ground area, showed the military operations site. We actually recorded the audio off of that, which James and I went over, but somehow it didn't come across. We did the audio trace. When they sent us the FOIA, it actually they actually decided to what do I want to say? Delete part of it. So the gentleman went back and re-requested it, and they had deleted a good portion of it that would have hampered our investigation. So it's interesting that the radars was up here, just down south here from me, and the other radar was in Cedar City, about 155 miles away. So you had 2 radars right on it. It wasn't echoes. But if you go to that site or look it up, it is very, very entertaining. And there's a lot of information that was put together that I would say you could almost write a book on.
Interesting. Now, you have a website, don't you, that you can share?
The website I don't have. I'm still building that up due to my book, and so that's kind of being hampered right now. But I just use my anomalies360 at gmail.com.
Great. Well,
and that's what I use to contact me and send them any information.
Now, when is your book going to be coming out?
My book actually did come out, and it came out January 5th, and it started out as a number 5 genre in unexplained phenomena and mind, body, and soul, and still doing quite well. But I'm selling more more books away from Amazon.
Well,
So,
how can they find your books? Our time is almost up here. How can they find your books? If they want to get your book, where can they find it?
they could go to Amazon.com, very easy, $18.95, or they could go to Kindle. If they've got a Kindle subscription, they can get it for free, or they can pay $9.95.
Well, hey, Jeffrey, I want to thank you for coming on, and I want you to have a great weekend and try to stay out of trouble, okay?
Gary, thanks so much. James, you take care.
Okay, my friend, you take care. Well, James, who's our guest on Tuesday?
Our guest Tuesday is going to be Jim McLennan, and he's going to be talking about poltergeist activity and all kind of stuff like that they've documented over the years.
Well, everybody, have a great weekend. Good night, America. We will catch you on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific West Coast time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. This is Gary with Night Dreams Talk Radio.
I have been fed, that's a fact.
I have been fed, that's a fact.
My credit card purchases get me cash back.
My credit card purchases get me cash back.
No one else gets these rewards.
Sergeant, that is just plain untrue.
What in tarnation?
Sir, PenFed's PowerCash Rewards Card isn't just for military members. Anyone can get cash back on all purchases.
Ah, Figgins, you've ruined my favorite song.
PenFed Credit Union. Visit PenFed.org/PowerCash. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
Sun, surf, and seduction collide as 4 Americans return to exotic islands, hoping their sexy romances can turn into forever. Love in Paradise, the Caribbean, a 90-day story, streaming now only on Discovery Plus. Start your free trial. Terms apply.